standing at the front lines. Even in arbitration, we see many more male arbitrators. And I think the initiative by Niyati was really to be able to make Indian women in arbitration more visible. So they have the opportunity, to be part of arbitrations, whether as arbitrators or as arbitration counsel. So a very important initiative. And I think now good thing is that, there are many sectors and many stakeholders who are paying attention to the diversity in international arbitration. So, of course, we talk about geographical diversity, but also the gender diversity. And when I say gender diversity, it by no means means that you quality on the merit. This is keeping all things equal. It's important for us to be conscious of the fact that it's important to have gender diversity, even in the arbitrator appointments. So, I remember we were discussing this, that how women don't really even speak up to say, I am available and I want to do this, right? Or take a proactive stance of being visible more. And which I think is part of the reason why we don't see so many women, whether as speaking in conferences or sitting as arbitrators. So it's important to have this platform, which is going to give more visibility to Indian women in arbitration at the international level as well. So I think a very important initiative and an objective that is very close to my heart as well. So even at SIAC, when we're looking at arbitrator appointments, when we're looking at speaking engagements, we're mindful that we try and find ways to involve more women in arbitration. Yeah.
Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, even if women do speak up and want to take on cases, but like you've mentioned in a previous interview, that the case, and it made me wonder, how do we solve this issue, wherein we make the parties trust women arbitrators?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of making them aware, talking more about it. Of course, at the institutions, I don't know if you would have seen the reporting by different institutions, and even for SIAC, we've had almost 50% women arbitrator appointed last year, and which is like quite at par, right? To be able to get to that feat, and even otherwise, and across all institutions, there is a more a concerted effort to appoint more women arbitrators. But where it falls short is the parties appointing arbitrators. The nominations from parties usually come for a male arbitrator. And I think that needs to change, and we need to make parties be more aware the importance of having diversity on a panel because of the perspective that they will lend to the arbitration itself. And so it's really a matter of making them aware and getting the biases out and the myths around that. Why does it have to be a male arbitrator or somebody? The pool needs to widen. The narrow pool will actually reduce the efficiency of arbitration. The pool needs to be wider, to be more inclusive, to have different dimensions. And when I speak of diversity, I also mean geographical diversity, gender diversity, so that the result, the decision-making process is more robust. And that is something that we all have to proactively work towards.
Right, ma'am. So clearly, SIAC is playing its part in providing inclusivity to women. But ma'am, what about inclusivity in the sense of different cultures? Since SIAC is a global organization, it deals with parties from all across different countries. Do they feel any kind of culture shock? And what does SIAC do to mitigate this feeling?
Yeah, I think, at SIAC, it's truly international. In fact, more than 90% of the caseload is non-Singaporean. And when you talk of international, is that, even if you look at the SIAC court, of arbitration who decide some of the key applications, including the applications that get made for joinder, consolidation. The president is American Lucy Reed, right? And you've got Vice President is Govinda Bull and Toby Landau. So there is diversity in the court itself, which is the decision making. Even if you look at the board, which runs the institution in terms of the more governance basis, that itself is also very, very diverse. So when you are working at such a multicultural, multi backgrounds, and even the secretariat is we've got about 15 of them. You've got some from civil law jurisdictions, some from common law jurisdictions, and from different countries across the world. So you at the base level have ensured that there is this sort of multicultural ecosystem within the institution itself. So when the arbitrators get appointed, for example, on an Indian case where there's an Indian party and maybe an English party, and you've appointed a third national arbitrator, so it's not a matter of cultural shock. Because the arbitrators are also more used to of dealing with cases which are not of their own nationality, because the requirement generally that you have the third national arbitrator. So you could have an Indian arbitrator who's actually looking at a case with Malaysian party and another maybe Southeast Asian counterparty. So it doesn't have to be Indian arbitrator sitting only on Indian case, right? You don't have to have a Singaporean arbitrator sitting only on cases where there are two Singapore parties. But really, so arbitrators are very used to of this multicultural, different ways of functioning, and they understand how the commercial sense is. But from our standpoint, even when the appointments are made on arbitrator, we try and appoint arbitrators who understand the cultural nuances of the jurisdiction involved. So, for example, if it's an English case, you will typically appoint an arbitrator who has understanding of how things would work. And likewise, if you've got an Indian case, how the Indian commercial sense functions. So an arbitrator who has an understanding and is not completely divorced from the commercial realities of a given jurisdiction.
Right, ma'am. So they have no option but to adapt due to the functioning, due to the appointments. So it's part of the process.
They're very, very agile. Arbitrators generally adapt very quickly, and the exposure of arbitrators is generally very, multicultural, different backgrounds, diverse nationalities, and different commercial workings. So arbitrators are very well versed, in terms of being able to adapt to different cultural ways of working.
I think this is the fundamental quality of an arbitrator, is to adapt and make parties adapt to each other. So, ma'am, could you please explain us a little about the working of CAC and how graduates like us can find our way into such an organization?
Yeah. So, we have a very strong internship program and highly competitive, but I think a very, very useful, opportunity for students to learn on ground of the cases that you have, which are truly international in nature. So that exposure, so we run the virtual internships and we also run in-person internships. So they're very limited in number, but if you're able to apply and qualify, it's a great opportunity. So we also have graduates taking up internships. It's only not just students, but also after their graduation, they apply for internships. Then we've had a number of, lawyers. So like you guys, when you will finish law school and start working, to come in as deputy counsel or as a counsel in the secretariat, which is also a very robust secretariat when you look at, the people who are part of the secretariat who work on a daily basis on the cases that get filed at SIAC. we of course have different representative offices, in New York, in India, in Korea, in China, where we also involve and invite students to come and work with us, in terms of our own initiatives. So there are different ways in which students can participate and can learn and be part of the institution. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer, ma'am. You have really given such well put and insightful answers today in this interview. It goes on to show how much you really enjoy working in the SIAC and enjoy arbitration in general. Your journey in this field so far seems really, really eventful and like an adventure of a lifetime. So, just to lighten the mood a bit, so have there been any like particular highlights or just anything that has been really, really memorable to you so far in this journey?
And we'd love to know about your favorite part of the job. What makes you get up and go to the office every day?
Yeah, I think the good thing about law is that it never gets dull. There is really never a dull moment, and at SIAC particular that I can speak of, because there's always something new, there's always something interesting, whether at the initiatives, whether at the thought leadership programs, whether the some of the nuances that we see at the cases that get filed at SIAC, whether we are looking at the arbitrator appointment. It is such a dynamic work in itself. I think the legal profession itself is so dynamic, so there is really no dull moment in that sense. So if you ask me of the highlights, I don't think there's anything particular that stands out, because every day you have to also push yourself up and say, okay, this is what I want to do today. This is what I want to focus on today at the task in hand. So what is important, and maybe a giveaway tip that I can from my learning in the profession, is do your best with what comes at your desk. Never ever think that this job is too small for me, or this is not something that I like. The ability to adapt and really develop interest to say, I got to do my best at this. And that starts from your journey now, even as a student, whether it's a moot court competition you're doing, whether it's something non-legal that you are doing, whether it's cultural, whatever it is, just excel, become best at that. So even if you're an intern, you become the best intern that your seniors ever had, and when you're an associate, you do your best at your job, and I can guarantee you will 100% look back at your journey and say, I've come a long way from where I was.
Yes, ma'am, you sounded a lot like my father right now. Whenever I post on my LinkedIn that this is the internship I'm doing, my father will be the first to comment, be the best intern this firm has ever had. Okay.
And it's so true, right? And we always joked about it, and we said that if we have to become a hawker who's selling food, we become the best at that. And really says, whatever you do, doesn't matter at what level it is at, just do your best at that, and you will for sure open a path forward in your life, far greater than you've imagined for yourself.
Yes, ma'am. I think this is a great way to end the interview today. Thank you very much. This is a very insightful experience for us. We're extremely grateful that you took out the time for doing us with this. We extend our heartiest congratulations for all the work that you've undertaken in the past half a decade this year. We really are in awe of things that you do and the example that you've set for young law students like us, and for women, and for professionals at large. So thank you for being here at this interview today, ma'am. We're really honored.
Thank you. Thank you for all your kind words. It's been a fun interview. It didn't feel like when these 45 minutes passed. So thank you all so much, and genuinely wishing you all very deeply, very, very best with what you do. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. The company couldn't be more grateful for your presence.
Oh, thank you. Are we good to close?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sure.
Okay. Bye. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
end the stream. Vihan, please.